Hi, Tyler.
Hi.
What do you have here?
This is my Halloween-themed daily commuter.
Your daily commuter. A little bit dirty.
This is my daily driver. It's not dirty from going to work, but I had it at the Mallet Mile this weekend. I thought dirt track tires would be good, and they were great when it was dry, but Saturday it just poured with rain and everything turned into soup. And I didn't do so well after that. But Friday and Sunday were pretty good.
Hello, riders and not. I am in Edinburgh at the North Motorcycles interviewing Tyler about his builds, his Harley Davidsons, and also we have lots of Ducatis around.
So I'm primarily trained on Ducatis. I worked for Ducati dealerships before going independent, and the Harleys are sort of like a personal passion of mine. I don't do a lot of them for work, but they're so fun to ride that I just, big twins, whether it's Italian or American or German. I love that sort of like throttle response, that torque, what a big twin delivers. That's what does it for me.
And you don't have Edinburgh accent. Where you came from?
I'm American. So born in Oregon, and then I went to New York, and then I came to Scotland. So I worked for a Moto Corsa, a Ducati dealership, MV Agusta and Aprilia in Portland, Oregon, sort of like early 2000s. And in 2007, I went to New York. I worked for Ducati New York for a little while. They actually closed temporarily because of like ownership change and stuff. And that was sort of my cue to open independently in Brooklyn. And I did that roughly 2009. And I've been independent since. So I left New York in summer of 16. So this July, it's 7 years I've been here in Edinburgh. I got what I needed from New York, and I feel like Scotland is a progressive step in my career. This building I have found is incredible, and there are enough Ducatis here to keep me employed, more than I imagined.
You thought you would be struggling?
Yeah, and a lot of people were like, Ducatis in Scotland, but for one guy, I work alone. There's more work than I know what to do with. So things are going well. I've got enough, and I'm really happy with my space, and Scotland has some beautiful roads. The air is so fresh. Everyone thinks it rains all the time, and you can just let them continue to think that. That way they don't move here. It keeps it really, keeps the traffic down.
Can you take us upstairs and show us your racing Ducati?
Sure, yeah, come on up.
A Ducati 996. And that is your first track bike?
Yeah. So,
and the only track bike?
Yes, this is the only bike I've owned that I've ridden on well, I have ridden other bikes, but not mine on the track.
And you change stuff and maintain it all yourself?
Yeah, absolutely.
How many miles do you have on the clock?
Well, I took the dash off and made it a track-only bike at like 46,000 miles. Because I used to ride this thing everywhere, like all over the West Coast, like San Diego, Las Vegas, Seattle. This bike's been everywhere on the West Coast of America. And then I started really getting into track days, sort of like early 2000s, like roughly. And then I did a bit of track riding in like New Jersey Motorsports Parkway, Thunderbolt and Lightning, I think they're called. There's nothing like it, being able to experience like the full capability of these machines on the track, just with your knee and your elbow like next to the pavement. It's crazy that they even let you ride these things on the street. I used to ride to the track and then ride home afterwards. And it's crazy riding home because you're just thinking like, a few minutes ago, I was going like 170 miles an hour, like on a off canter turn, like this is just, and here I am just like in traffic. It's weird to have the same machine in both environments. But yeah, this is done really well, this bike. Still runs great, and it's got all kinds of cool stuff, a flywheel, a slipper clutch, lots of carbon. and it's got a 900 SS crank, so it's like a 1026, and it's got BST carbon wheels. I've always run slicks on it, even on the street. But it's not like it goes in the rain. It was in pretty gnarly track bodywork. It's been a few colors, but just a few months ago, I actually had the factory bodywork repainted to put it back into street trim. It's been up here upstairs in my shop since I moved to Scotland. Just most of my riding is just sort of having a good time in the street. I haven't really been to the track since New Jersey.
So on Ducatis, you do maintenance, you do rebuilds.
Yeah, engine building.
Customization. If somebody wants to make a Ducati a track bike, would you do that as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
And like consult on performance? And
I would say in Portland, a big percentage of our customers were like track-only bikes, whereas New York, a lot of the customers, like the bikes were more like fashion accessories.
And how about Edinburgh?
Edinburgh, well, to be honest, so many multi-stratas. Like this is sort of like GS land where people like tour and ride in the rain and stuff. But I do have a lot of customers with Panigales and Monsters, and I mean every type.
Start it up.
You said that coming from Oregon
Yeah.
and New York then to Scotland, there was a difference in types of motorcycles. What other difference you spotted between the USA across the pond and between
Well,
Scotland?
the bikes aren't much different. I would say the UK has much more like 125s and things, but I don't really work on those. I'm focused on the one brand really.
So you would say that the vehicles are smaller?
Yeah. Well, in the US, you don't have to do the sort of graduation of licenses, but here you have to, start small and then not until you're, 24 or something to buy a full horsepower motorcycle. I don't know. I was too old by the time I lived here to be restricted by that. But yeah, the machines are the same, but I was saying before that they are really into like records. People like to have their service books stamped and receipts and record mileage and really careful about like resale, whereas in the US, I never stamped a single service book.
Really?
Ever, not once.
Nobody cares about that?
People would throw them in the bin or they'd never even heard of it. Or like a service book, what do you mean? Like there's like a little spot where you can stamp it and record the services you've done. I imagine people kept receipts and stuff, but here, people in the UK are much more careful about it than they were in the States.
If we will search you online, you are Ducati specialist officially, and that is
how I
your
advertise
main
myself,
direction.
Yeah, most of my training and experience is like 99% Ducati.
But as a business, are you mainly working on the Ducati?
Yeah, when people call me with like Chinese stuff or whatever, I'm sorry, I don't work on that. No,
Japanese?
I really,
Hondas?
I don't know. I don't even think there's one Japanese bike in here. If a Japanese bike is in here, it's because I know the person really well and I'm like their friend. Or they have 8 Ducatis and a Japanese bike and they don't want to take their bike anywhere else. So if someone calls me and I don't know them already, moving forward, I only accept Ducatis in here as new customers.
So you're working purely with new customers with Ducatis. If people want to bring the bike to you,
yeah, when people call me, I say,
Ducati.
what kind of bike do you have? Let's just start there, And it's got to be a Ducati for me to take it in. It's what I'm efficient at, it's what I'm tooled up for, and it's where all my like wisdom lies. Like if you're on the side of the road on a sport classic broken down, I can tell you right now that your fuel line popped off your fuel pump. You know what I mean? It's like those reoccurring problems that make me or make my consistently working on one brand becomes valuable because you can predict problems and know exactly where to look and be fast and efficient.
But you have quite a few Harleys and quite interesting Harleys.
People, especially in the UK, they frown on Harleys so bad. They think, they think of like just a certain crowd yeah, you can imagine like what the stereotypical Harley rider would be, but there are so many different genres of
I'm a
Harleys.
Harley rider.
Yeah.
You are a Harley rider.
So it's really, you can't stereotype too much, but if they're set up right, they can be amazing. 100 foot-pounds of torque feels so good at like 1,000 RPM, It's like immediate throttle response, which is so usable on the street. Whereas like if you're riding a 600cc 4-cylinder Japanese bike, you're at like 16,000 RPM, making the whole neighborhood think you're an asshole before you're having any fun, before you've reached your power bands, So these can be like really usable on the street and fun and responsive, and that's what I like about big twins. That's why Harleys and Ducatis kind of go together for me. Here's a few of my Harleys. This is a 77 Shovelhead FXS lowrider. It's pretty cool. Originally, I got it from a customer of mine in New York who had it at his house in Los Angeles. And so it's an LA bike.
You brought it from America?
Yeah, I brought over 8 bikes when I moved here, and all my equipment and everything. Shipped it over in a container. And so it's a 93-inch Sidewinder top end, S&S rocker boxes. I did the split. I had a machinist help me with the dual plugging of the heads. So I've got like dual magneto, dual plugged heads. To adjust the timing, you literally just kick the magnetos in with your foot, and that's full advance. And yeah, it's cool. It's a lowbrow customs rear fender. It's got like 80 spoke wheels that came from LA. Those were on it. I've done a lot to it, but I didn't build this from scratch. I've made a lot of changes though.
And you said you built the tank with an English wheel.
Yeah, so these are what I would call WR style tanks, which is like a WL, but like a race version from the 40s, where they had split tanks, but like with no gauge in the middle. So yeah, I made these to sort of fit over my cylinder head, like real tight, get that sort of like narrow, clean look. They're not painted. I don't know if I'll paint them. I might actually have them chromed, just to have an all metal bike. I used the 66 badges and just made all the mounting tabs, and I used a shrinker stretcher and an English wheel and a lot of welding. It looks almost factory, but there are a lot of hours into making tanks like this. The forks are wide glide forks, but these triple clamps are from Pangea Speed in Salt Lake City. So they're narrow glide dimensions, but with wide glide forks. So you get that sort of like really beefy, narrow look. That's what I was going for. This is a Y-Pack headlight, just off eBay for 20 bucks or whatever. It's a fog light, really, not a headlight. Yeah.
Can we talk more about this very dirty Harley? It's the dirtiest Harley I've ever seen, to be honest.
I got this bike about a year ago. It needed the heads taken off, and it's like someone started the project and then just sort of gave up, like the broken exhaust stud with like the frame in the way. So I did like valve guides, seals, like a valve seat grind, and I did the S&S hooligan kit, piston cylinders, cams, lifters, and a lot of jetting. I used the same CV carb, just a factory carb. It's super reliable, works really well. And my goal was to finish it for Halloween last year. I hosted like this little Halloween ride where we all dressed up in costumes and just made a big scene around Edinburgh. And given why I did like kind of a ridiculous color scheme, visually loud. So it's become my daily driver, and also sort of like Mallet mud machine. I think next year I'll make a few changes to it, but I'll probably take it back to the same races. It was so much fun.
This Harley is a carburetor, isn't it? Which year you said it is?
It's a 2000, which I think is really cool because that's sort of the year they upgraded like wheel bearings and better brakes, but the motor was still carbureted and solid mounted. I think it was 04 when they went to rubber mounted motor with fuel injection. And I just like old school. I like, well, when it comes to this, I feel like there's some reliability behind it. You know, you could like fix it with some duct tape and pliers on the side of the road rather than some diagnostic machine. So the more modern vehicles I work on, the more it makes me want to ride something like that. You know, just
we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
One more question about how did you tune your hooligan kit? Because I have hooligan kit which was tuned with a computer and it's not very accurate. So how did you got the accuracy to race it?
Well, if you're giving it more air and more displacement, you're going to need more fuel. So I just started with bigger jets, and with the idle jet, you can sort of like, if you move the mixer screw, you see if you're out of the adjustment range. It's just, I don't know, it was just, carburetor tuning was taught to me just by guys that, you know, did it before my time. Always try and surround yourself with people who are better at things than you, and you learn stuff from them, you know? So yeah, like reading the plug, pulling it out after just idling, or pulling the plug and reading it after like cutting the ignition at full throttle in 5th gear and looking at the plug. It's all about just trial and error, you know.
So as a bike builder and working on the bikes all your life, I would say, all your career is based on the motorcycles, isn't it? What is your preference when you build a motorcycle? Is it visual or performance?
Oh, well, I mean, I think all motorcycles should work and like take you down the street. But you can have just as much fun on something with 10 horsepower as 200. So for me, oh man, there's such a mixture. I guess I fell in love with Ducatis before I'd even ridden them because of the way they look, the design. Italian design is just, it's amazing. It's beautiful. Even if you have to, you know, put a lot more money and effort into it, what you get in return is like something very exotic and beautiful. But yeah, performance is important for sure, and like feedback, like the way the machine responds. I think it depends on like what kind of performance you're looking for, what type of riding you're doing. There's a machine. That's why you need 20 motorcycles. It's a 1949 WL, and it's a 45-inch Harley Davidson, and it's a flathead, and it's only 18 horsepower roughly, a 3-speed tank shift, foot clutch, you know, hardtail. This is not a high performance machine, but I'm very excited to get on it. I found this bike down near Colchester. It's actually a UK bike, and it is a civilian bike. It's not a WLA or WLC, which is American Army or Canadian Army. So yeah, it's been sitting since roughly 1974, and I've sent the cylinders off to the machinist. I've got a spare motor, also for a spare gearbox, 2 front ends. I got a whole bunch of parts with it, but I'm going to try and sympathetically restore it. I mean, I would love to just leave this paint. Maybe I can get that primer off there, I don't know. I'm not sure what's underneath this primer, but it would be cool to retain a lot of its patina. I don't want this to be a show pony. I want it to carry its story, you know? And along with that story, I got a lot of paperwork with it. Like the guy kept receipts for a tire he bought in Ipswich in 1964. He had a valve guide replaced by London Wars, Harley Davidson in London in 1965. And it's cool, they like hand typed these little letters to him and probably posted it in the mail and said, you know, this is why we need to do this and this is how much it costs. We understand that 40 pounds is a lot of money for a valve guide in 1960 something, but the material is better, it's proven to work better, and it will, you know, fix your machine. So yeah, it is originally a UK bike, and it's got a lot of story. I will not sell it ever. That's like my biggest problem with my bikes is the ones I buy now are like things I intend to keep until I'm dead. This is a 1960 Duo Glide. It was originally a police bike in Argentina, and I found it in Oregon. The guy who took it to Oregon bought it in Argentina and took it back to Oregon, where he was from. It was a good candidate for restoration because it wasn't really cut up. I did weld back on the bottom tank mount, which is also the crash bar mount. The frame has been painted. I'm going back to factory. It had some other seat on it. I went back to pogo seat. This is the original leather. It's really nicely patinaed. I won't redo that. This is the first year of the nacelle headlight, 1960. 59 was a bit different. And it's what you call the drop seat frame. Later, like 1965, I believe, they had to pop the frame up right here, and it's more straight because they had to fit a starter motor on top of the gearbox. So yeah, they did the drop seat frame for just a few years, less than 58 to 63 or something like that.
And behind that?
Behind that, although that bike is registered as a 1951, it's really just a mixture of parts that I collected. That's the first Harley I put together in Brooklyn in 2012 or 13. So it's got a Springer front end that's 4 over. It's got S&S, lots of stuff. It's a 93-inch Baker 6-speed transmission and Morris Magneto. Tank is from GME choppers. It's an old 70s coffin tank. I plan on making some changes to that too, but it's a bit back in the queue. I want to finish my flathead first, and I've got some other projects going, like that monster behind you.
And that little van.
Oh man.
What is that?
I'm deleting Facebook Marketplace off my phone, honestly.
Did you bought it on Facebook Marketplace?
Yeah.
Postman back.
Just the thing is, it made me laugh so much. It's so ridiculous that I thought, you know what, that's what it's all about, is just having a good time. So this is from 1967, and it's electric.
Is it?
Yeah. And I plan to sort of go the other way and convert it back to, I want to put a Harley Davidson engine in it. A big twin sticking out.
So you're going from electric to combustion?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the way forward. Deconverting, going back to crude oil or whatever. Here, look under the hood. So yeah, it was built in 67 by a company called Manuelectric, and then in 1980 it had like a renovation to be used for a show. I believe the show was called Fun Day. I'm not sure, but before Postman Pat was an animation, it was like a guy in a costume, and this is the actual vehicle they used in the show.
Oh, he used to drive.
These speakers would play like the theme music.
Will you keep that?
I don't know.
Put the Harley Davidson speakers in.
I would like to retain the paint job, but I'll probably have exhaust pipes sticking out the side or out the hood or something wild. I would just like it to make a lot of noise and just make a big scene. It's hilarious when you see 2 people in there. You're like shoulder to shoulder.
Really?
It looks like a cartoon. I mean, it's hilarious. I mean, could you imagine how much fun this would be? Just to rip around with like a huge Harley engine in it. It's just ridiculous. But
look at the size of the wheels.
I know. We'll see. I don't know. When I get there in the winter, I'll see if it actually has good brakes or not. I might have to change some chassis stuff, but we'll see. It's pretty lightweight. It's aluminum bodied, and it's just, I mean, it's almost the size of a motorcycle. It's ridiculous, and that's why I got it.
It is fun. And you have another Ducati just over here.
On the left there is a 1980 Mike Hillwood replica, MHR. So it's bevel drive, kick only Ducati. Mike Hillwood is hugely famous for racing and in the 70s. And yeah, this bike, it's one of the first 200 produced, according to my research. You'll notice it has the one-piece fairing, which was first series, and the tank is actually, it's a cover. It's over a fuel cell. So you can see around the cap here that this is actually a tank cover, which is early. And it's got all the right stuff, like Conti pipes and just the right brakes and the right forks. It's
Have
cool.
you ridden it?
Yeah. A customer of mine who actually won it in a raffle to raise money for some club because the original owner passed away or something like that. He wanted me to fix it up and then sell it, and I have sold it to a guy in Belgium. It's just yet to be delivered. But I got it. It was quite a bit of work, maybe a week or two, to get it running again. It had been sitting for a while.
Won it in a raffle for how much?
A quid. This is a La Verda, built from a Montjuic, but you would call this a Barcelona 500. It's got a 265-degree crank like an MT-07, so it sounds violent. It sounds amazing. It's just a parallel twin, 500cc, and it's an endurance racer. It's super cool. There's actually been quite a bit of like media, like magazines, write-ups on this actual bike. It was built by Keith Nairn of La Verda, Scotia. He's like a La Verda specialist just outside of Glasgow. It does sound good, but I can't start it right now.
Unfortunately. And on your bench, you have is that your own project or a customer's bike?
Yeah, so this is one for the personal collection. So I bought a few Ducatis from a really nasty wet shed for very cheap. And one of them was this Monster 900. And I have so many parts I've collected over the years. And so this one is also a mixture of parts. The tank, Ducati made a monster in the 90s called a Chromo. People don't even believe me, but this is a factory tank. And I've had the frame powder coated, the swing arm. The motor is now a 944 with like lots of ceramic coating and CAD plating and a bit of polishing. Every nut and bolt on this bike is either stainless steel or replated or titanium, something cool. So I've used Pistal pistons, 944. It's high compression. Hopefully I can afford the flat slide carbs for it. I'm using Sport Classic wheels. So these are from a GT1000. And although they're steel, they're not super lightweight. This bike is just gonna have a really vintage appeal. It'll be very classy.
I hope we will see it once it's finished.
Yeah, I should have it done this year.
It looks amazing. Are you planning to bring it to some shows, like a bike shed show?
Yeah, probably. I don't plan on selling this one, so if people want to see it, I'm happy to show it off.
Amazing.
It's pretty flashy. It'll get some attention. I did another one very similar to this in New York, and I sold it to a pretty cool dude. He's a rock star. And I always think about that bike. And in fact, these wheels came from his GT, but I built him a Monster also. And it's just kind of cool because I'm building a bike similar to the one I did for him with parts from one of his bikes. But I always think about that bike and I think what a cool machine it was and what an opportunity it was to be able to build it with a nice budget. And this one is slow going. I sort of started this last summer. And I collect parts and send things out for anodizing or polishing. And it's pretty close. If I just had the forks finished, I could make it a rolling chassis in a matter of hours. But I hope to see it riding in the next few months.
We hope to see you riding in the next few months. And where people can find you and see your work and you riding that in the next few months?
I look at Instagram as sort of like an online portfolio. Mine is called North Motorcycle. And I put work on there daily, like just what I'm getting into. Like my last post was about why this engine failed, or parts of it did. It actually didn't turn out what I expected. It had a problem that I had never seen before, and I find that stuff really exciting. And I guess if other people that follow me think it's exciting, then they can have a look too. But that's what I use Instagram for. I don't really use Facebook much, except for the marketplace, which I need, as I told you before.
Buying some vehicles.
I need to stop accumulating and fix the bikes that I have. You know, I've got my dream bikes. I just need to make them work. So,
I'm sure you will.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the interview and your time that you dedicated to us.
Thanks for coming to see the shop. See where I spend all my time.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to meet you.
You too.
Thanks for watching. Wait, I have to do that. Where is my thing? Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you on the next one.